good, America? It's your man, Big Flo. Coming back to you. It's been a little while off. I've been spending most of my time with the Ball Hawk Sports Talk on Friday mornings. But as you know, I love doing the Big Flo Show and doing interviews. Came across an interview opportunity I had with an old teammate of mine. This guy was the 17th pick in, I believe, the 1993 draft. All-American in college. Played with a Washington football team, which was called something different back then, with my Chicago Bears, and played with the Bengals. Without further ado, put your hands together for my man, Tommy Carter. Actually, Tom Carter now. He's got a little older now. He's Tommy back in the day. TC. What's good, TC?
Hey, Rich. How you doing, brother?
Can we still do TC, or are we on that?
Everybody called me TC, so it still works.
That's good, man. Well, man, thank you so much for coming out doing the show, man. I know you got all that beautiful weather. I can see shining on your face that you could be enjoying right now, but you're inside talking to me. It's not as beautiful over here, but we do what we can. Do what we can. So what's good? Where are you living these days?
Currently in Jacksonville, Florida.
Jacksonville. Okay.
We came down here. Mama got tired of cold weather in DC, so
Yeah. And you're the pride of St. Pete, so
yes,
you had to go get and check that out again, man. So I played with Tommy in school. We were 1 year ahead of me. Came in defensive back, all world out of high school, like most of the people that we played with, and came and had a great career. So talk to me about growing up in St. Pete. What was that like? Were you always in St. Pete, or did you guys move around?
Yeah, born and raised in St. Pete. Actually, my first airplane flight was a recruiting trip to Notre Dame.
Get out of here.
Oh, yeah, never been on a flight before that time. Only child, single mom. Mom came from a big family, so obviously, I felt I had a great childhood.
Yeah,
I didn't know.
We didn't know better. Yeah,
I didn't know about it, right? I just know my mom. She worked 3 jobs.
If you felt it was great, it was great. That's
Yeah.
not the bottom line. It's your opinion. So if you felt it was great, it's great. Hats off to Miss Carter.
Yeah, I felt great about it. So we just started playing Little League football around 7. And all the way up until funny part about that, I played offensive line in Little League.
For sure. You got to start off with fundamentals, baby. You got to
start
come
with
out right off
fundamentals.
fundamentals.
I wish I could say that I was just a heavy guy, so I couldn't play in the tail, in the backfield.
Oh, you started off kind of thick?
I was thick.
Kind of thick. Hey, that's just a lot of good nutrients in there. That was just waiting to sprout. Now, was football your only sport, or did you play other sports?
No, all 4 sports. Basketball is my first love all the way through high school, but when you're a 5'11" center your senior year, it doesn't look too good.
You were saying I played line, I played center, and NFL cornerback. But we'll get to that. So you played center in basketball, the basketball team,
and I had dudes 6'7", 6'8" on my team, and so
you still played the center.
Yeah, because we all grew up together. I just so I never developed the ball skills.
Oh yeah,
and so just because I could jump high, I just played the center spot in Little League, and by the time high school came, I just stayed in my spot.
So you said all 4 sports. I would like to know the 4th. I'm assuming baseball was one of the
baseball.
sports.
Yep. Track and field.
Oh, track. Okay, yeah,
track and field. Yeah, track.
You had time for all that? You guys didn't have overlap, or they let you just do both in the season? Some had to be some overlap between.
In
baseball
that time,
and track.
well, down in Florida, that's just what we did. So we had spring football every year, and so to be transparent, the reason I played baseball was I didn't want to run track my senior year, so I went for the baseball team.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Tired of running.
Oh, man, I couldn't hit that fastball came by that plate. I'm like, no, this is too much.
So you didn't play baseball as a youth?
No, I just tried it out.
See, I just had this conversation with somebody yesterday. Baseball, like football, is like I would say 70 to 80% athletics.
Yes,
and the rest is skill. Baseball is like 75% skill. You can be a bad athlete, but you got to get them skills. You can be a great athlete, but you got to get those skills. If you are not out there swinging that baseball or throwing that baseball and do whatever, you are falling behind. You're woefully.
Big time, brother. I just told the coach, just put me on, let me pinch run. I'll still second to third, and we'll call it a day.
We'll call it. We'll be straight. Did you play in the outfield? Did you play like
Played in the outfield, tried to hit, but in Florida,
baseball is just a great outfield because you could track the ball in the air.
Track it down. Just couldn't mess with that curveball, man. I'm like, no, thank you.
Yeah, I never was good with anything with the required anything other than if I couldn't put my mitts on you, I wasn't good for me. Basketball, I could go up and get the rebound because I was bigger than everybody else. but skill wise, it was just if my strength in the weight room didn't help me beat you, that wasn't part of the rules. That wasn't couldn't do anything. So thank God that worked out. Thank God there was need for that in the world, so you could get someplace else. So you get out and so you start shedding those in high school, and then so obviously basketball you weren't going to be a center. Sorry, they don't have an under 6 foot league, whatever. No. But whatever, football. So the recruiting process, obviously. You were ahead of me, and from Florida, we didn't have the internet back then, so I don't follow your recruiting specifically. How did that go? Who were your major offers that you were looking at?
Yeah, at that time, I had I called the Big Three back then, right? My first choice was Miami. I went down there on a recruiting trip, and I went to a Luke Campbell party. I'm like, this is not for me. So that lifestyle, even being from Florida, that was another level. But every kid.
But I bet you enjoyed that party while you were.
Oh my God, I was scared to death sitting on the wall. Like, all right, I'm a 16-year-old kid. With these grown folks, but it was a great party. Then Florida State, obviously, my high school, high school teammate, a guy named William Floyd.
Okay.
Floyd played fullback. He was my fullback in high school, and we went to Florida State, and Coach Bowden offered us both in his office, and I'm like, thanks, Coach, but I'm going to wait a little while, and then I came to South.
Did Floyd commit on the spot?
On the spot, if you know,
put you under some duress, like
a little duress.
Yeah,
it was a little tight. It was a little tight, and obviously, when I came to Notre Dame, and I'm a very decisive person, so I went to Notre Dame. I committed on the spot, and I canceled the rest of my trips.
Okay, so you got Florida State. So was Florida State even a trip, or that was just an offer?
Unofficial. I went to the
in-state. It was weird in our day. My son and your son, college athlete, daughter college athlete.
Right.
People are getting these offers early. Like I didn't get a Notre Dame offer till I went to Notre Dame.
Yep.
Like on my official visit, they offered me there. Until then, I thought that they might offer me, but you never know. It was weird. But so Florida State offered you before, but you still were on campus though. It wasn't like they just called you up.
Right. I went to their camp. Like you went to the summer camp.
Yeah.
For 4 or 5 days, and then at the end of camp, Coach Bowden offered us at the end of camp.
Okay.
So he had to put the mitts on you and see you.
And see you do whatever. It's different now. These guys are sending bird dogs out there. Hey, when you're out there, man, put about 12 offers out there.
Yeah.
And then they might not ever call you again. You know what I mean? You get some situations like that, and you're like, whatever. So it is what it is. So you end up at Notre Dame. So what do you think it was about Notre Dame that made you pick the Irish?
Because I was always a very serious kid, and I wasn't really playing professional. And Pat Terrell, former Notre Dame player, went to my high school. And I think Pat's words to me, Pat.
How you find things out years later. Pat Terrell's out here in Chicago by me.
Yeah. So Pat told me when the recruiting process, he said, Tommy, I'm graduating this year, and I got about 4 jobs lined up in Chicago, and that blew my mind. I'm like, oh, okay. So it just made me make a decision long term, and that was it. So
Pat came out when you came in?
Yeah, Pat was my host. When I visited,
I missed him by more than that. Okay.
Yeah, when I visited Notre Dame, Pat was my host. Him and T. Rice. So it was a little.
And you thought the Luke party was a little bit much.
From going from that to having your host be Pat Terrell and T. Rice, and you sit at dinner and say, "All right, good night, see you." Good night. So
yeah, I mean that was a surprise. They probably were like, "Hey, can we get back to the Miami for the No, but great dudes there. So you come to Notre Dame. You're I believe. Did you start freshman year?
I did. Okay. Obviously, in the whole name, I played quarterback in high school, so I knew coming to Notre Dame, Coach Holtz told me you're gonna be a defensive back.
Okay.
And so back then, in the 80s, I was like, all right, let me go to a school where I know I'm going to play instead of going to play quarterback and getting switched.
I think to be honest, had you played defensive back in high school?
No.
Wow.
No.
So you're telling me you never played DB until you had a gold helmet on your head?
Yes.
And started as a freshman. Did you start or you just played?
I started, yeah. I ended up starting during the year. Like all the host guys, I ended up getting benched. And then you know how that goes.
You don't get it. You're not truly one of Holtz's favorites if he doesn't bench you at least one time and tell you that you're never going to play again.
Yes,
that has to happen at least one time.
They told
never
me
going to play Tommy Carter. We're never going back to St. Pete again. You're
we all have our stories, right?
more than you, but unfortunately, he was telling me the truth when he told me things like that. he was being a little more honest with me. But I digress. This is about you. So, so you come in, you get 3-year starter, become All-American, and then you decide to come out. Talk to me about your decision about coming out early, because back in that day, there wasn't as many people coming out, especially of the Notre Dames. If you played basketball for Duke, you didn't come out. You played football Notre Dame. It was all about the graduation. What came down to your decision? Did you get an advice from an agent, or I don't know if we could say that? What's the statute of limitations?
It was just being that Florida cocky kid. I came in freshman year. I played, and I played T-Light, right? So Ty was 5th pick in the draft. I'm like, okay. My second year I start. Rod Smith was my boundary corner. Rod got drafted 2nd round. I'm like, okay. So when my 3rd year came up, I was pretty confident what I can do. And we practice against the best every day. When you practice against Rocket, getting beat down every day, like, all right, I've seen it. And
I know what fast looks like. Yeah,
I know what fast looks like. I know what strength. Playing against Lake Dawson, you're playing against the strongest guy. So I felt I was getting ran over every day by Dorsey Levens or, Jerome Bettis. These guys are running me over. Like, all right, I've seen the biggest and the best. And
that's a good way to think of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't. And so those 2 guys previously gave me enough confidence to say, all right, I know my tangibles matched up with their tangibles. I should be okay.
Now, guys, so for those of you who maybe weren't Notre Dame fans back in the day, and you never saw this unless you went to the game, TC used to do this. It used to trip me out. During the TV timeouts, you would do like gassers, or you would do like line drills. You would like backpedal, you would break, backpedal, you would break. Well, everybody's standing around. TC was like bored and would do like a little workout. You remember you used to do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I would be like, what is he doing? Like, you love the game here. I just try to save energy, but you back up, you break on the backpedal, just practice.
That was just it was 2-part. It was mental games, right? I'm trying to stay loose, and I'm also letting the other guy know, hey, I'm ready.
Here. I'm so ready. I used to think the receiver had everything like, don't you want to rest? I might take you deep this time. I'm gonna show you my back pedal. You're a workout dude, so you had a little pretty back pedal. Boom, I'll just let you know I can sit in this back pedal for 30 yards if I have
all
to.
day. Yeah,
all day. I'm comfortable here. I can eat my cornflakes. So that's crazy. So you came out 17th pick in the draft. So talk to us about the draft process and how that worked out for you. Like preparation and where you thought you'd go and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I thought, obviously, me and Jerome, we decided to come out early. So it was helpful to have we drove down to the combine together, actually. So it was nice to have someone going through the same experiences as I was going through, leaving school early. And it was kind of it was taboo. Rocket did it. Rocket was the first person to do it. Then me and Jerome followed. Get down to the combine, have a great combine. I left thinking, okay, I'm top 5. I'm ready to go, and draft day comes around, and after that 5th pick comes off the board, I am sick.
Did you have a big draft party?
No, I did not. It was just my family in the house, fiance at the time, girlfriend.
Who was the 5th pick that year? Not the person, the team.
Cleveland Browns.
Okay,
so Cleveland Browns. So I talked with them a lot. The DB coach worked me out. He actually just beat me down in individual workout. I'm like, all right, this guy's going, this is it.
Did he take a DB at 5?
No. I was the first corner taken.
Okay.
But it was just, from pick 5, because I didn't talk to any teams at the 5.
So now you're sick.
I'm so sick.
You're thinking I might have to go. You think you're going 2nd round now?
Yeah. I'm sick now. Sick. I'm like, so I'm just sitting. And I was just saying, all right, God, thank God you got my family in here. So they all just looking at me, in the corner. And then Washington calls, and Emmett Thomas. Love Emmett Thomas today. He's my football dad. So it was so
they pick up the phone, and you're thinking, and they had never really talked to you during the pre-process or worked you out or nothing. So was it that they didn't think they had a chance to get you, probably, huh?
Yeah. Well, that was the full. Previous years, most corners were gone. A couple corners were gone in the top 10 picks. So. So obviously it's first world problems for NFL players, obviously, but it was just one of those.
That's all right.
Yeah.
That's the crowd. That's the people listening to the show. They want to hear about the first world problems. So you end up coming out 17th pick. You go to play for the Washington Redskins. At the time. Was Reggie B there?
Reggie B got drafted 2nd round.
Second round there, yeah, because I couldn't remember if he was there in Tampa fish round. So he went Tampa round. So you're in the same draft with Ready to be. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You get to go to somebody that you know to the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Talked about your experience at Washington. I can't remember. You guys, obviously, they picked you 17. They had to have a somewhat decent year. They're 500.
They had just come off the won Super Bowl 2 years prior. So I came to a playoff team, right? Mm-hmm. They were older guys, and me being young, I was a young kid. I was 20 years old, and I get there, and I've never seen grown men. They were smoking cigarettes in the locker room. Like, what is this?
Cigarettes.
I was blown.
Yeah.
And I came in, and me and Daryl Green. Daryl's my mentor, still close, but that corner mentality. Mm-hmm. So I go in and I challenge Daryl the first week of minicamp to a race.
And I was just about to ask you about his speed. You just come bring it out.
And I tell this to the kids that when I worked at the PA, I told us at the combine every year. So, I get in there, and I had the second fast time at the combine, set records in the vertical, all this stuff. And I say, hey, look at D Green. I've never been the slow corner of the team, so let's get this done. And so all the vets were looking at me like, are you crazy?
So how bad did he beat you?
By the time the coach said go, he was finally out of here.
He was ready because he could run. That boy can run today, I believe. That man, I should say that.
Yeah.
That man can run today.
He can run.
So what was your 40 at the combine?
On the computer back then, I ran a 4.41, and I was mad about that. But everybody said, it's computer time. So
you feel cheated. What was your vert? I remember you could get up.
43.5.
Yeah, I remember you could get up.
Yeah, 43.5.
So, hey, look, I could run, I could jump. So I love it though. You try to. So here's my I want to show I'm grown thing. I come to Notre Dame, and we had to do the leverage drill. We call it the sumo. So they put the first person out. They put Lindsey Knapp out there, and he was like the thinnest of the linemen.
Yeah.
I said, man, and I had been there for summer school working. So I was like, I got this. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking, I'm running. I'm right before coach could pick somebody else. I'm in Lindsey's face. Like, let's go. Let's do this leverage drill. I'm gonna let these dudes know. He drove me so far down the field. And the worst part about it, how he's a jerk, is he could have pancaked me, but he would slow down so I could catch my feet and then keep me going. And then he slowed down. I'm like, when are they gonna blow the whistle? He obviously won. So then they thought I was done. So I did it one more time. He could never do this again. He did it again. So he convinced me. Sometimes you do it twice, he convinced me he could do it. So that was the welcome moment. Unfortunately, I wasn't getting paid big checks or whatever. At least you were the second fastest probably on the team at the time. That was my story. How it goes out. So anyway, so you played with them for 3 or 4 years?
4 years there. Hit the free agent market. Mm-hmm. And now it's
came to mess with us.
Yeah.
Came to Chicago. So out of you, so you played with Chicago, and then you got 2 in Chicago. I'm not doing my math right.
3 in Chicago, 2 in Cincinnati.
And 2 in Cincinnati. So what was your favorite NFL team to play for?
You know what? It was just stages of life. We had kids at every stage, and maybe I was the most relaxed in Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. People, Cincinnati's a small town that tries to masquerade as a big town. They had nice dining, entertainment and stuff. So we enjoyed that. But,
and that point was you had all your kids by the time you were in Cincinnati?
Yeah.
Yeah, so growing family, relaxed.
Yeah.
Chicago's mean anyway.
Chicago, we love the downtown, and the city is so big, especially a little Florida kid like me. Every time I go to Chicago, New York, I'm like, it's just too big.
Where did you live when you were in the Bears? On the Bears?
Up in Libertyville.
Up in Libertyville, okay.
Libertyville, yeah. It's just
that's fantastic. So so that's where the show's coming to you from Chicago, and that's my stomping ground. Libertyville's up the street from where I grew up in Evanston, where Northwestern is. So, so the Bears. So you played there. So you retired. Was it an injury retirement or?
Yeah, injury. I got hurt the week after 9/11. That was my last game.
Wow.
Yeah, so we came back out, and it's a play I made 1,000 times before, and got a PBU on the play, vertical, and I came down and hit my knee on the ground, and I'm like, that feels funny. And it's a PCL injury. So I hit, So
that's the one behind?
One behind. Yeah.
You don't have that surgery for that one, right?
No surgery for it. And so I was put on IR, and it healed up, eventually. You just feel a little instability in it, but and I was thinking
so that does it well. For one of the guys listening to my show, a good friend of mine, his son just got a PCL. He's about 3 weeks in. How long did it take you to get back to feeling somewhat normal?
So that was September 11th, and maybe by the end of that year, 8-10 weeks maybe, but it still wasn't stable. I was able to go straight.
Yeah.
It took about a good 6 to 8 months for me to feel stability back.
Oof. Okay.
Because everybody's different.
Josh, if you're listening, tell your son that medicine is better. Maybe it'll be a little quicker than that for your son. So anyway, so you do that, and then you decide, did you get cut, or did you decide to retire, or how did that work?
Yeah, I ended up getting released that year. And I told my agent, I'm like, all right, if a team calls, I'll come back and play. And so a team ended up calling, and I thought I was going to sign, but it's actually a workout. I'm like, oh, I don't want to do a workout.
Yeah. I'll do that no more.
I'm like, I did the workout. They signed another guy. And at that time I was thinking about retiring. And I told the agent, like, hey, I think I'm done. In this game, once you check out mentally, I was done.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, you check out mentally, it's over. You can't do it. The edge is no longer fun.
Yeah.
So what was your transition? Did you take a year, just relax for a while, or did you go right into working in the
the real story is I said, man, all right, I'm retired. I got these 4 kids now. We're in Cincinnati. We're loving it. And I think I sat on the couch for like 2 or 3 months, and my wife looked at me like, you got to get up out of here.
What, we can't just chill? I thought
I'm like, this is great. We both at the house. This is great. And she's like, And so that day, maybe that next week, I started substitute teaching at my kids' school. And so from that point on, I love teaching. I started teaching at the substitute school, and then we moved back to DC, and I got a full-time job teaching in high school. And so love that.
So I like hearing that transition, because you know what I found, and you had a good NFL career and you had some nice contracts in there. I'm not going to get into your business on the air, but you had some good contracts so that you could kind of make a choice to do that. What I found with a lot of guys that play in the NFL is they get out before they were ready. They always thought they had more years. And then they spend a couple of years before they can settle down their spending. And then they spend through their money. And then finally they say, all right, let me go back to teaching and coaching and do whatever, because I don't have anything else I can try to go do. And they go on living the rest of their life without really seeing the fruit of what they did early on in their 20s. But I like what you're telling me, is that you went right away and said, I'm going to go be a teacher. So you must have been happy with however you had planned financially, and you wanted to go right into something that you enjoy doing. So that's not the normal story. I'm sure you know the story is better than me, but that's not the normal story to do that. But I like to hear it, because it seems like you just had peace with what was in front of you.
Yeah, obviously, working 15 years at NFLPA, I've seen every story you just mentioned. Right. I experienced it, even my personal with our sons. My son is going through that now, right? Leaving the game. It's tough to transition. I wouldn't say I was different. My rookie season, a veteran said something that was so profound to me. It stuck. He's like, hey, it was middle of training camp. We were all out there just hating football. He's like, hey, either you're playing this game for 2 reasons: for the love of it or for the money. Pick one. And for me, I wouldn't say I never loved football. It was just a great means to end. And so that's kind of my philosophy the whole way through. And
so you never really loved it, huh? You still wish you could have been that center, huh?
Yeah, basketball. Man. I wanted Dean Smith to come recruit me so bad.
I wanted to be a hooper. So it's interesting, because I heard that there's other players, like I know Jeff Samardzija was a great receiver at Notre Dame, and I think he could have done well in the league, but I think he was like, look, man, this is third hand information. Don't love baseball like I love football, but he's still pitching today, I believe. So you got to go where you got to go. You got to do what you got to go do. So obviously you liked it enough that you could be good at it, right? But it wasn't your life thing. So how did you end up at the NFLPA from teaching? Were you tired of teaching, or did you just get an opportunity at the NFLPA?
I just had an opportunity. I love teaching, and that was Gene Upshaw. I don't know if your fans would know that name, but Gene was the ED when I played. I was a player rep during my years in the league, and he asked me to come on staff.
Okay.
I said, Gene, I got 4 kids. I can't travel that much. They travel about 35 weeks a year. But I asked the wife, she said, hey, if you think you love to serve, and if you could help out these young men who walk in your shoes, do it. And so it was the best thing I ever done, right? And that was in 2006. And so
You end up doing that. You know, it's interesting because there's certain guys you look at. You know, in school we have all, you know, the locker room. I think I wish everybody could have spend some time in a football locker room on the team, because you get around so many different people and then you find a way to come towards a common goal. And everyone's kind of got a thought. So you're a year older than me. You were, you know, more of a quiet person, kind of reserved, whatever. But when I heard you were at the NFLPA, I was like, okay, I can see that. TC was never like the wild, crazy one. Like, there's a bunch of people that you play with where you thinking, what the heck is that dude doing with that? But you were, you know, you carried yourself that way always. I have a son going to school now, and I always try to tell him, like, okay, you have to conduct yourself a certain way, because at some point, you know, if you're going to want to get a job, you want to do this, there's dudes on our team that you probably never could put your name on. You're like, I can't put my name on that dude. And there's guys you'd be like, no, I can put my name on him. You definitely were one of those guys that in school, I'm like, okay, TC always carried himself serious. Always, again, he works out during the timeouts, you know, like he's always got his eye on the prize. So I can see that. But being with the NFLPA, I mean, I guess you're always on the side of the player. So was there anything weird about being a former player when you took that role? Was there ever any positions that you had to take on something where you felt kind of conflicted mentally, hadn't already been a player, or did you always kind of line up with who you were when you were a player?
Yeah, it always lined up, you know, because I bought in from day one, right? With Gene Upshaw's like, the players have no other representation but us. And, you know, obviously at a union, you're never going to get 2,000 guys, which is our active player count, to agree on anything across the board, right? I know, you know, you're a family guy. I was a family of 6, and, you know, running my family of 6, it was no democracy. We did what mama said. So
you married Lou Holtz.
Yeah.
Total dictatorship.
Yeah, that's fine. And so obviously I love being in that locker room setting and just talking to young men about life and the business of football. And it's tough. But, you know, there are a lot of circumstances to where, hey, you know, what's best for the majority? And when you have those conversations, it can get pretty tough, because there's always a minority that does not like it.
So during your tenure, what were the most like memorable decisions or changes that happened? But, you know, there's not always. How often do they renegotiate their agreements?
We did it in 2010 was the lockout year. That's probably the most memorable time.
Okay.
Right. We were going through it's always about the money. I know fans on the outside, it's a very myopic world. You got 32 owners and 2,000 players fighting over $15 billion. So the rest of the world, who cares, you know? But for those people inside that sphere, it get pretty tense. So we changed football that year when we took away 2-a-days. And like your son and my son, they don't even know what 2-a-days are because what we did at the NFLPA that year.
Why do you feel like that was necessary to take away 2-a-days? You think just people just getting too hurt to?
Yeah, it was aware at our level. It wasn't a matter of guys. You wouldn't be there if you didn't know how to tackle and run. So we were saying, you know, the more the body can heal, the better we can play. And so different teams throughout the NFL history, whether that's the 49ers or the Buffalo Bills, they didn't have pads at all. And so football is always lagging behind. And so we say, hey, let's just be health and safety, because, you know, you don't need to bang twice a day.
Yeah. That is a lot of banging. I mean, we did in our day, we did a lot of killing each other.
We did a lot of banging twice a day. And so all right, guys, that was the model. And obviously it's a trickle down. Everything we do at the professional level, then it trickle down to college, then down to high school. So now, obviously, I don't know about you. I don't watch much live football, but I can't tell the product has changed much over the last 10 years. Maybe, you know.
You know, it's changed, but the thing is the changes are subtle. And I believe that happens, you get so used to them. You know, when I was growing up, a horse tackle carrier was probably half my tackles. It was a horse collar. And it was no big deal. Now, if someone horse collars, they treat it like we treated face masks. Like, I can't believe that you would actually try to grab somebody's face. That's dirty. Get him out of there. Kick him out. Right? That's how people look at horse collar. Helmet's a helmet. What did Coach O say? Butt him in the mouth, knock him in the dirt. What did he say? Trade an 8-yard out for what?
Yes.
For a headache, right?
For a headache, yes.
We're supposed to hit somebody in the head. That's what you're supposed to do. Bust them in their head. And you're soft. Now, if the helmet touches, and what are we doing? What are you? This is a savage. Like, so society changes, but they used to boil people in oil thousands of years ago, right? I mean, the public would come out and watch that. Nowadays, you know what I mean? So I think we just, as society moves, I think the combat sport, which is why I can't believe hockey you can still punch somebody in the mouth of hockey.
Yeah,
they don't care.
Crazy.
They
Yeah.
put their foot in the ground.
I know. And to your point, Ray, that another major moment was that CTE with Dr. Amala. Everyone saw the Will Smith's film, but that changed. All the things you just said came because of that.
Now, do you think, let's touch on that CTE, because, it's funny, they don't really talk about CTE anymore. I mean, if you really look at it, I don't know if it's COVID or whatever, but we just don't really talk about CTE as much. Do you think that the changes that have been made are going to be enough that we're going to see a difference, or do you think it's still going to be people still just going to get CTE?
Yeah, it's going to be because everybody's body different, right? When I was growing up, you see those guys with these necks that hang all out here. Everybody's body is different. My little stringy neck, you hit my head, my brain's going to jiggle all over the place.
Did you have a lot of concussions?
Looking back on it now, how we define it, yes. Did I see stars every time I hit somebody? That's concussion. Right? We didn't define as concussions when we played, but today,
it's brain affecting is basically what it is. Whether it's called a concussion, theoretically not. Like myself, I would hit somebody, I would get like headaches, and I would take Advil before practice, and I wouldn't get a headache. If I didn't take the Advil before practice, I might get a headache. But I never saw stars. I never had light sensitivity. I never like, God forget, never had any of those things. I thought I never had a concussion. So hopefully we won't get it. But I look at the way the game has changed, and I get frustrated in some ways, but then I go back, and now my son is a receiver, so I'm a little softer now. When I was a defensive person, I was like, oh, hogwash. But now I'm like, yeah, don't touch my man's head. All right, stay away from it. Hopefully he can get out of this thing alive. Do you feel like okay, the college game now, you have a targeting and you're kicked out the game. In the NFL, they don't do that. Why do you think they don't do it in the NFL? And do you think it's too excessive in college?
Yeah, and it's always intent, right? These college kids are going out there, and obviously have more in numbers. And with the NFL, we always get to the players.
Great point.
Right,
more numbers.
Yeah, just the numbers game. So in the league, we always can get to your pocket. That's a way to correct behavior. And so in college, you have more numbers, and the way to correct behavior is, all right, you won't play for the rest of this half. So,
I think it's still too much. I think the 15-yard penalty, people don't face masks very often because it's a 15-yard penalty.
Right.
They don't horse collar very often because it's a 15-yard penalty.
Yeah.
I just think it's because you had to sit this half and the next half of the next game. I think it's now sometimes you've seen some really nasty targeting. Right. Like, how they have flagrant 1, flagrant 2 in basketball. I wish they had targeting 1, targeting 2, because sometimes like you got to go to the replay and it's like a 5-minute jury and they're like, okay, targeting. Those guys don't need to miss the whole game.
Right.
I mean, you have so few games in college, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it is. But again, if it stops people from getting the concussions,
it does. Yeah. For us black and white guys like myself, that gray area of intent, I think I'll pull my hair out more if one guy did it and the ref said, he didn't mean to do it. Then he didn't mean to do it.
But it's like, okay, so you're a DB, babe. So you're the number one goal, probably safeties, but corner safeties for getting targeting calls because of whatever. But you watch it and you see these guys and you go to tackle him and he's not, just like people get juked and they get error. He's not where he was when you thought you were going to tackle him. Now I understand you got to keep their head up. You can't drop your head. But I mean, how many times have you hit them with helmet when you tackled them and you didn't have any idea you were going to hit their helmet when you went to tackle them?
All the time. And Reg, you wouldn't believe how many times we've had this conversation with our appeals officers, our players, because my job was to protect both players in the league, right? The person getting hit and the person getting the fine. And so we would always bring up that point you just made. He had his launch angle here, and then the receiver running back dropped to meet his ankle.
Which is their thing. Drop down, try to duck the hit.
Yeah.
They drop down, and then their helmet gets hit.
Yeah, so that's kind of like, the whole chicken and egg conversation, what happened. And so we just, for our league, we have those mitigating circumstances to where the fine can get repealed. But yeah.
I was happy when they finally came around and did the blindside block because you know what? People used to get cleaned up. Now, there's a little bit of the blindside block I don't like. If you're on a kickoff team or something, okay, if it's an interception, blindside block all day long, because first of all, it's an offensive lineman or whoever, offensive player that's not expecting, it's just kind of a change of play. Or if it's like a reverse or something like that. But when you're running like a kickoff or punt, and the guy goes the direction that you expect him to go, and you don't turn your head, that's on you. People are gonna block you. Sometimes that's too much. You know what I mean? Like sometimes I'm like, I used to tell my kids, they start doing crackback blocks. Like it was a big deal here. So we'd have the guy go in motion. I would say before you hit him, yell as loud as you can. Ah! Because if you yell, he's gonna turn. If I yell, if someone yell right now to your left, you turn it to your left. Yeah. But if you yell, he'll turn, and then the ref sees him turn, and you hit him in the head. So I always just holler as loud as you can. You got to do that in the NFL too. Holler. And they just going to turn his head. Yeah. What can you set a pick? I always thought, can you set a pick, or is that still considered blindside?
That's still blind. Yeah, now.
So you just got to let him tackle it.
Yes.
So if you're on defense, you got to train the guy. Don't ever turn your head. Keep looking at the running back and never turn your head, because if you turn your head, he can block you. He can block you. But if you don't turn, that's what I hate. See, that's the only thing with the rules. You start thinking about ways to cheat.
I know.
Rewarding bad behavior.
Yeah, hey, as Al Davis, you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. So.
Yeah, I guess Belichick, he goes into that type of thing too. But I didn't bring you out here to dog him. So what with the NFLPA, I don't know, how large of a staff is that?
About 90 employees.
Okay. Do you all do everything project by project, or are you in charge of one thing and someone else in charge of something else? Like, what was your main role and responsibility?
My main role was player affairs, anything to do with players.
Okay.
We in the locker room, we're the first line of communication. We handle grievances.
For the whole of the NFL, or did you have like the NFC East or something like that?
It's me and 4 of the guys, and we split the teams up evenly. I had about 7-8 teams apiece.
Okay.
And so we go to those teams, and just most of the time it's compliance to make sure the owners and coaches are following the rules of the CBA.
Okay.
So 60% of my job on the popo. So when I walk into the building, if I don't see things right,
you're coming in like whatever dude from whatever that show is, I can't remember, Walking Dead. You start walking in, everybody like, oh, he's here.
Yeah, that's pretty much what
Omar's coming.
Yeah, that's kind of everybody get all straightened up and everything good. So
the players felt that way, or are you saying that the teams?
The team did.
Yeah,
because the teams, the way it works, the players pay my salaries and the teams don't. So when I walk into the building,
what is your true power over the team, considering that
compliance? I could take draft picks away. I could find money.
Ooh,
yeah. So we had teeth.
Yeah, some teeth. You come get you for a pick. That'll straighten them up real quick.
Straighten them real quick. So obviously, when I come there, practice is usually a lot different when I'm present.
Yeah. What would it take for someone to lose a pick?
Repeated habits. If you are just, for instance, off season, we have a 4-hour workday rule. If a coach just like abusing it, going 6, 7, 8 hours, or he's out there playing,
That's field time or workday period?
That's real time. You in 8, out 12.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of like we have, and that's early in the off season, and we have different contact rules, which is the probably most violated rules. Especially y'all big guys up front, right? Y'all don't know how to go half speed.
Yeah.
And so by the end,
it's hard to go. It's like, what are you doing? Your lineman go half speed. It's not like you guys could just walk through. Yeah, we got to go.
So by the end of practice, I got a full-fledged tackle game going out there with guys just in no pads, and it's not healthy.
Yeah.
And that's what I typically blow the flag on.
So what did you work with the sports agents as well?
Yeah, well, we were, once again, compliance. All agents have to come to the union to get a certificate. And so, is more so I would see them, we'll see different functions. And obviously, if a player had an issue with agents, they would come to me, and then we would try to do the situation out.
So, okay. So you did that. You worked with the agents, and you've seen that compliance. You worked in issues. So now coming to your current state of what you did, you decided to leave the NFLPA and start your own business. Talk to us about that.
Just mostly seeing a need, right? How can I serve? And this whole NIL space, man, is the Wild West.
Wild West.
And like I said, so me and you were there. We experienced it. We have 2 kids going through it. And right now, I don't see anyone out there helping these young men out.
Okay.
Right. So when I go to campus, and if I see someone like your son, and I see 7, 8 people approaching him to do these things, you don't know if these people have been vetted. You don't know what type of business they have, and are they going to put your son in a bad position future wise? Sign him to a 10-year contract for $2,000.
So
outrageous.
where is going to be your angle and your approach? We talked about this a little bit before. How are you going to attack it? Because I'm looking at right now. My son will start school in 2 months or
Yeah.
3 months, right? So he's
Mhm.
going to be eligible for this, and I don't want him to miss out on opportunities. I don't want him to get exploited. I want him to get distracted.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about some other stuff that's going on with that with other players now. But I don't. But at the same time, I have no idea. Like
Yeah.
we went to school. None of y'all got anything, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
first round All American. You didn't get nothing. They
Yes.
sold the 13, right? Number
Yeah.
13. Yeah,
13.
13 jersey
Yeah.
in the bookstore. You got nothing.
Nothing.
Just hopefully it was enough there in your mama's size so she could buy one, right?
Yes.
That was the biggest come up you thought that your mama could get your jersey.
Yes.
But now it's like, okay, what I feel goofy. Like, I'm a businessman, so I want
Right.
to handle as much as I can for my son. But
Mhm.
what do? Call a car dealership and say, can my son get a car? I don't, actually sounds so arrogant because I play with you all Americans and none of y'all got a car. I'm
Yeah.
asking my son to get a car. You know what I mean? So I don't even know
Right.
how that works. How are you approaching it? Which side are you coming from?
I'm just coming. It's a third party verification. So if
Okay.
you came to me for your son and say, "Hey Tom, I got these 4 guys coming at my son. Are they legitimate?" And I would say, "Hey Reggie, 2 of these guys have been approved. They have credentials from the NFLPA because what you as a parent want to know is that can you trust the people coming after your son?"
Okay.
Right. Same with agents and runners. So
when you're saying these people, are you saying Joe Blow's Pizza Place? Are you saying
yeah, it can be.
Jim Jones, who says I represent the pizza place and I can get you pizza and I can get you a car?
I'm
And I can
coming
do
for the
this.
Jim Jones of the world.
Jim Jones. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, if Joe Blow come to you and he has a physical location and you guys can see it and touch it, great. But when Jim Jones come at you saying, "Hey, I got these deals for you,"
Mm-hmm.
like, is this guy really legit? Because
Yeah.
that's what's happening right now. These young, and not everybody, but they're getting involved with people who cannot have the best intentions long term for them.
And they're going to be coming. How are you going to vet those people?
Just through the credentials at the NFLPA, the 3 major sports unions all have verification processes.
Okay.
And right now, there's no compliance nowhere in this space.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what I would do, I would say, "Hey, sure, you might can go with Jim Jones. He's not approved, but Jim Jones should want to go get approved so that he can be, better standings with you and your kids."
Okay.
So I would
So
only.
there's no requirement for them to get approved at this point, but you're kind of pushing that envelope a little
I'm
bit.
going to push the envelope that require everyone in this space, and that's kind of how we operate at the PA, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can't be an agent unless we do a background check on you. You can't be a financial advisor unless we do a background check on you. Like, I don't care who you choose, but at least that we checked them out. They have no criminal record, and then that way they have skin in the game. So if they abuse you or your son, you will report that, and then they will lose their license at the top level.
Okay. So at this point, is there anyone else trying to do what you're doing? Or are you kind of the first person that's
No,
looking at
I believe I hit a niche market right now. All the people in the NIL spaces are going to protect the universities, which is fun, because universities is a difficult conversation to have with the young man to say, yeah, you can do the barbecue place commercial, but you can't have our uniform on. And the kid's like, "Why not?" They say, "Well, because a uniform belongs to the school, not you."
Well, my face belonged to you before.
Yes.
But now I can't. Now that we can do the other way around, I can't mess with. Okay.
Yeah. So that's
some schools are allowing that, though. They're allowing them to use it.
Some schools are, but that's the devil in the details. We don't know how that's set up, right? What percentage are the kids getting, and that's kind of like schools negotiating, with the kids.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I say it's the wild space. It's the Wild West. There's no compliance in any area, and I think. I know universities are scared of the whole, kids coming together. The whole unionized thing is scary to them. There's a lot of court cases going to be going on in the future, but I think they have a responsibility to at least help these young men out and make them better. Because right now, it's basically the kids have been thrown to the wolves. It's like, "Hey, do whatever you want to do. We don't care. Just don't use our imaging."
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I've seen some creative stuff out there. We look at it on the Ball Hawk Sports Talk show. that you can see on Friday mornings
Yeah.
on multiple platforms for everybody's listening. We talk about NIL every time. There's always some new thing. I love seeing the ones like I love seeing walk-ons get scholarships. I love seeing military people come back and surprise their family. But I like seeing these mass NIL deals where they're going through and they're giving it. Seems like there's a magic number of $6,000 a year. Though I don't know what that's all about, but there's $6,000 they give a year to everybody. Like they'll give everyone this, or they're going to pay at BYU. I think they kind of got in trouble for this. Not in trouble, but they got told no. Someone's like, I'm going to pay for all the walk-ons education, right? And they did that. And now all of a sudden, now someone's crying foul, which I look at it and I look at the NCAA, which I think is a waste. They serve no purpose at all for the players. So, but I think that they dropped the ball so many times. This NIL thing, they just said, all right, we don't want to do it. Just do whatever you want to do. COVID, just do whatever you want to do. I mean, I can't believe that the two chances they had to make a decision on something show that they're worth it. They decided just to wash their hands of everything. Yeah. I think that the process of doing that though, it's scary from not scary is the wrong word, because at the end of the day they're getting some money for some things that you and I did and we didn't get any money for. But it's just so interesting as to what's the limits going to be. I mean, where do you see this? This is a scenario that I've seen that I think about. There's going to be a kid coming out of high school, probably a basketball player, and somebody's going to want to sign into a Nike contract, and then he's going to want to go to an Adidas school.
Yeah.
Do you see that becoming something that you guys are going to have to work on, or is there going to have to be some parameters put around that, or you think that's just going to be how things work?
It's going to be how things work, and I've had this conversation before privately with school officials. Basketball is going to show up really fast. If a kid signs a deal with Adidas and he goes to a Duke, are they going to sit him and not let him play? That's going to be the ultimate question, because the school, that's the next case that's going to happen.
Or what if what happens at the school? Okay, so I have a contract with Adidas. The school does. I'm wearing Nikes on the court. I have a Nike deal.
Yeah.
Can you force the kids to? I mean, remember when we were there, we had Converse and people could wear Nike, but they would tape the Converse sticker over that. That was terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, but like, what do you do?
The school's going to sit, like for us back in that 30 years ago, we had to spat it up. Now you can't do that in basketball. So the school would either, hey, you sit and don't play, or you wear your Adidas. And so these kids, these 5-star kids, like, I'll sit.
So there's going to be some superseding languages there. Another thing I see from a problem I worry about, and this is kind of a thing I want to see, you're seeing some of these bigger schools right now that are having problems with some of their players. So like, Clemson's lost 2 games. Bama just lost a game. Spencer Rattler just got benched. And you start wondering, is the transition with this NIL going to start affecting? Is Spencer Rattler having a problem because he's so worried about these cars that he's dealing with, or is he just having a problem because he's a normal kid as a football player? I don't know, but the gut makes you want to just go towards and say, I think this kid might be a little too Hollywood right now. And where does that affect his contract? Like, talk to me about how you feel about those issues.
It's going to affect him, right? Obviously we were sheltered because it didn't hit us till later on. I felt those pressures when I got to Washington, right? And we didn't have when you're on the front page of the paper, did we make the right pick? Is he a bust? And that affects you. So now you got these kids with the social media, they check their likes, and if I don't play, it affects my bottom line. So, I can imagine at 17, 18, having the pressure of, sponsorships and people liking me and other commitments. So yes, to answer your question in short, it is affecting the kids. It's affecting the universities. Now, when Alabama picks a kid and making him starting quarterback, he's instantly worth $1 million.
Right.
Right.
So part of me looks at too, and I don't know how you think about this. Like, I know Alabama already has an unfair advantage. Let's just say it. I mean, it's silly to even say something different. The top 4 or 5 schools out there have an unfair advantage over the rest of the schools if they tap you on the shoulder doing it. But do you think in some ways this can even the playing field? Because everybody has rich alumni. Every school does, right? And they care about the team. It's hard to get somebody to go to, I'm just going to pick a school out. If you're listening, I'm sorry, the University of Toledo, right? And you say, okay, University of Toledo, they've got businesses there. They've got people. They'd like to see their team do well. And if somebody says, well, I can go to Michigan State or I can go to Toledo. Well, if I go to Michigan State, I'm probably their 18th, 17th, 18th recruit. If I go to Toledo, I'm their top recruit.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you think this NIL can kind of even the playing field and say, hey, listen, man, you come over here, you're going to be the guy that gets the car dealership guy because you're our top guy. You're going to get, this, that, and the other, whatever it is that school has to offer.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, he has to offer over the middle tier stuff. Do you think that's going to start influencing some of the talent to kind of even out, where it's better to be a big fish in a mid-sized pond than it is to be a guppy in the ocean of Alabama or Clemson?
Yeah, I definitely agree in basketball, yes. In football, as you know, even got it professionally, only 2 or 3 people they want in football: quarterback, receiver, running back.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, if I'm a star quarterback in football, I can go to Toledo, but I ain't got nobody blocking for me because your lineman ain't getting paid.
Nope.
But in basketball, that model can definitely happen. If those 5-star kids start going to HBCUs or Toledo's, it'll flip the whole script because one player can make that bigger difference. So, and that's the whole NIL space. The market will correct itself.
Mm-hmm.
And similarly in football right now, the sponsors only want the premium guys.
So what do you think NIL looks like in 5 years? Give me kind of your brief outline. How do you see things working out, at schools? And that's kind of a broad question.
It's going to correct itself. It's going to go to all the QBs, right?
Mm-hmm.
My thing is it only can get worse because people who don't have good intentions are trying to get a connection to the university.
Mm-hmm.
So if I come and get Reggie for as a sophomore, he might not be playing, but I'm saying I represent him and he's at Notre Dame. I just see a lot of people trying to attach on.
Mm-hmm.
So 5 years from now, the trickle down effect is going to happen in sports. It's going to become like the NFL is show me the money.
Right.
And if I'm not winning, so who cares about the team? So all those things the NFL has to deal with, different complexity, who makes the most money, the jealousy. That is starting to trickle down to college right now.
Mm-hmm.
Certain guys getting paid, others not. Like, hey, he's not out for us. Who cares about him? Quarterback, are you going to take care of me? Because I'm taking care of you.
That's a good point. I think it was Spencer Rattler that somebody in there tried to take care of his line, and he had a deal. Said, "Look, take care of these boys right here. They try to take care of me, like that." So, where do you think the biggest pitfall is for the? Because again, maybe not getting what you're worth, but you see kids. Like, what's the biggest risk factor you think to these kids right now with the Sharks?
Just signing a deal. Let's say you do get a top pick, and he signs an 8-year deal with this company, and they're gonna say, "All right, we'll give you $100,000 up front, but we get 30% of the money for the rest of your career." Now, me coming out of high school, if you offer me $100K, I don't care. You can sign me to a 1,000-year deal. I'm cool.
Yeah, because I can't see beyond 100.
I can't see beyond these 2 years.
Yeah,
and so that's I see a future to where a lot of venture capital companies are going to go get all the 5-star kids and just throw money at them, knowing that, hey, percentages say if I hit on 3 or 4 of them, I'm good.
There was a Real Sports episode. I think I saw a guy that they do that for baseball. Yeah. They're sponsoring these minor league guys, and then they get 10% of their stuff forever. And then they get signed a $100 million deal and do whatever. So I think it was a Real Sports episode. Yeah. Whatever. It was really, really interesting. Yeah. In doing that. So
and that's coming to football, right? And it's not, I saw you had Tom Lemon on your show, and I love Tom like you love Tom, and like there are so many people out there with these things, and it's not a hard practice. Just look at the ESPN top 10 and the 5-star guys and go offer them contracts.
The thing that's so crazy is the barrier to entry. Talking about Tom Lemming, the barrier to entry into Tom Lemming's business is zero. You can make a logo, and tomorrow, right now, the Big Flo Show, I could decide tomorrow that I want to start ranking kids, and all I could just do is I could just read all the rankings everyone else has and switch them a little bit and come up with my own rankings, and kids will follow it because they want to be ranked and they do whatever, and do it. Access to kids. You said to try to go make a relationship with the high school, get to them through a family, whatever. No, you just get on their Twitter and send them a message. Yeah. You send a message and that they'll respond. So the barriers and the protections that you have just of just communication is gone compared to when we grew up. And it's amazing now because anybody like, who is this guy? Right? Who is this person? I don't know. I just showed up with something and found a story. Yeah. So you have a lot of stuff to deal with.
That is crazy. And that's what's scary part. So that's why, my business is I want parents to be able to call me and say, hey, is Tom, is this guy legit? Obviously, I don't charge the student athletes anything. It's just more so you want to help. And it's a scary space to be in, right? And not all kids will get offers.
So your business model will be to charge the schools or to charge
the schools and charge the unions, right? The unions would want to compensate me because, this is the NIL and it's a thing called a GLA, which the three major unions have to where licensing rights. And it's going to come a time now when companies are going to take these licensing rights early from these young men and won't be available to their NBA, MLB, or NFL. And so if no one's there in that compliance space saying, hey, just, be patient these 3 or 4 years. And when you get to be a professional, you'll have a bigger deal on the table.
So you think some of these deals, people, you said a second ago about 8 years now, but it really didn't register. So you're thinking these people are going to try to sign someone in college to a deal that goes all the way to their NFL?
Absolutely. And that would supersede their NFL deal or NBA deals. And like I say, it's tough for a young man to see that now because no one is telling them that. And so, my company has a great fortune of being in this in-between space because most universities don't want union people on campus. All right. And so unions don't have any way of reaching these young high school athletes. So I would like to be that person in that space to say, hey, it's very transparent. This is who's compensating me, but everything I do for the student athlete is totally free.
Okay. Now, if a parent was out there listening right now and they had a student athlete in college and they wanted to just kind of find out more, how would they get in touch with your company?
Yeah, I was email my company. That'd be great. And
your email address. I'll put it in the comments, but go ahead and mention it.
It's tom@carterallo.com.
Okay. And they would come to you and say, hey, listen, my son's been approached by XYZ. You would talk to him. At this point, I'm assuming since this is a relatively new company, you probably don't have the colleges set up all across the board yet. Right. So someone from, University of Iowa calls you tomorrow and does that. Are you ready to do business with them right now? Are you ready to do that vetting? Are you kind of doing it on the come or how's that going to work?
As they come, because, me being in the industry 15 years, I pretty much know all the vetted people in the space. And if I don't, I know how to verify their standings.
Gotcha.
So if someone calls me up and say, this person came to me, I will say, okay, well, let me just check with the unions to make sure that this person is vetted. If he's not, I will come back and let you know he's not vetted. Not saying you can't go with him, but
just go there knowing that this dude it's Wild Wild West.
It's Wild West.
Are there a lot of people vetted that are in the college space, or do you think it's the regular sports agents they're doing most of the calls?
It is going to be, I think the agents are trying their best to spread their net. The agents have done, what a runner is, right? For your viewers, runners are people.
I used to be a runner.
Yeah. So, So, there are a lot of runners out there right now. And so, even the runners can set their shop up now and do the work. Cut out the agent because the runner is the person who's really doing all the work. And so basically, that's why I say everyone has to have skin in the game. If there's no liability, then people can tend to do things they want to do.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of where we're going right now with the business model. And, I just want to protect the kids. I don't want kids signing 8-9 year deals, It's just not good for them.
Do you see it extending down to the high school levels?
Of course. Right.
So people will be signing deals.
If I'm on the other side, right, if I use my skill set, with my education and all my experience, that would be the play.
Somebody's going to say, I'll give you $10,000 for your fifth grader right now.
Yeah.
But I get 50% of what he got for life. And somebody's going to say, I need to make that rent.
Let me get that bread right now.
We get that bread right now. That's too bad.
Yeah,
so I had to ask you this question. It's kind of off topic, but what do you think about what's going on with this Urban Meyer stuff?
It's a tough game, man.
Tough game, man. I mean, do you lose the locker room? I mean, you were in an NFL locker room. You deal with the players. You get a guy that shows a lack of discipline. Is it possible to get the locker room back after something like that?
I think it'd be very tough. And obviously, we had a coach like that in Coach Holtz, right? So we know, if you talking it, we want you to walk it. So
back then, Coach Holtz never drank in public. He never did anything. He never heard about anything.
Yeah.
What about a Gruden?
I think John has a relationship with his players, and and we've all been in a situation where people say things like, "All right, what's his heart? Do I know him? Is this who he is?" And you can't hide in the NFL locker room, right? I don't think you can hide in this league. It's too small of a league, and he would have to. Those players would have to say, "All right, what's his heart?" Because obviously, we had players in the past who said comments on teams, and
the difference is, though, like what was the guy, the receiver, the white dude from the Eagles that got caught dropping M-bombs. But we play with dudes on the team that we know were racist dudes, right? But you know what? During the second, I ain't got to deal with them. He didn't come to your house at your dorm after the practice. You didn't hang out with them on Friday. Right. I mean, there's guys I went to school with, we went to school with, probably because I'd never seen them outside the locker room or the dining hall ever. Never saw what they did. I don't know what their experience was. But the coach, because I would say with all the stuff that went on with Iowa and all the different things like that, even this, because you remember Coach Doyle was it our strength coach or our GA? Remember him, the guy at the Iowa, the strength coach?
Was he?
He was O-line when I was a freshman. He was the O-line GA. I liked him. Okay, yeah, he was. My son went up there for a visit. I looked. I was like, I know you. And I started looking at him, and I'm like, "Did you coach at Notre Dame?" He's like, "Yeah, I used to be the GA." I was like, "Oh man, he was the O-line GA. Was there?" I thought he was great dude. He saved me from some harsh punishments for being late to a meeting one time. So I was like, that was but we never ever heard anything. I never did anything ever racist from the coaches. They said a lot of other very mean things that you can't say anymore, but never any racist type stuff. And if you did, then you kind of like, So with Gruden, who I always kind of liked Gruden, I mean, I always liked just his persona, how he went about things. I mean, D. Smith's got to be probably a personal friend of yours, I would assume.
Yes.
To make those comments in an email to somebody, first of all, so reckless, right? Because if it got out, that means you wrote it to somebody who you weren't that tight with, right? They could just get out. I mean, I don't want to make you put your personal stuff with D's out there, but I mean, you're digging deep, man. What were you saying about somebody like that? You're digging deep on an email, and doing that. Those are. I mean, 10 years. Then you kind of claim you don't remember writing it. It should do. I mean, it should do. Come on. You either think he has Goodyear tire size lips or you don't. So it either sounds familiar, sound like something you say. You know what I mean? You said that in the past. So I don't know. Those things are tough. Yeah. With the locker room in the NFL, you got guys making more money than you. It's not like the dictatorship where they're holding over stuff in college and you have to follow Coach Holtz because you're trying to get to the NFL and Coach Holtz he can stand in your way. You're already getting that money.
Yeah, and the thing, I'll be sensitive, but the thing I say about D. Smith and Gene Upshaw, I've been very fortunate to work for two African American men who every day go into boardrooms filled with people who don't look like them, and they are the baddest dude in the room, right? And so, they've taught me that hey, your skill set, what you know, your knowledge, people are going to say stuff to get you off your game.
Yeah.
Right. And so I've seen it personally with those two men, they are. So I've learned a lot valuable lessons to where, hey, and those guys like D and Gene is like, hey, this is what I signed up for and nothing's going to slow me down.
Hey, if that's the worst thing anybody ever says about you, then you've had a charmed life. You know what I mean? So you do whatever. But at the same time, I just more think about like if I'm in the locker room when I'm sitting there, especially during the time period we are right now, the social justice and all the stuff like that. Like, man, this dude, I'm not trying to hear that from him. So it's interesting.
He will deal with it on the squad.
He'll get it. But at least Gruden has been around. He's got a Super Bowl under his belt, whatever. I think Urban Meyer is going to have a hard time. I think not flying back. You ever had a coach not fly back with you after a game?
Never.
So that's bad. And then he did some stuff that would get you cut if you were a player easily. I'm not going back with the team, and I'm going to go out to the club, and I'm going to hang out, and I'm going to make a embarrassment of the thing. You think he's going to survive that, or you think this is going to be his demise?
He'll survive. Urban, the losing is going to get to him first. Right. So
people lose in their first year as a coach. You can have the rope just got short.
Yeah. And like you said, coming out of college, right? When you came, you had Lindsey Knapp. You never experienced that. I don't know if Urban experienced this in his career. Going 0-6. So I don't know.
Yeah, he's been fantastic everywhere he went.
Everywhere. So everybody handles those things differently. And being in the NFL locker room, you don't get to have 55-star recruits out of 85 scholarship players.
Yeah, you're right.
Everybody Got the same deck.
Everybody's pro. Yep, you even it out, so we do whatever. Well, T, I know you got a long day ahead of you, and I know you got many people to see. I appreciate you taking an hour out of your day and informing my guests of what's next. So one more time, is there a website for your business that they could point to as well?
Yeah, website hopefully should be up and running soon. It'll be carteralo.com.
Okay. All right. Well, everybody, it's been great. It's another episode of the Big Flo Show. It's been a while, so I have a hard time getting it out. But I appreciate you. I love you, brother, man. Best of luck to you.
Thanks, Reg. Love you too, brother.